Hello, everyone. Welcome to Anthropology 2201, Introduction to Archaeology. I'm your instructor, Kyle Reardon, and you'll be seeing my face 2 times a week, once in an introduction video and once in a recap video. And I'm going to start this first video up with a introduction to myself, and then we'll go into a little bit about the class, and then we'll get into week 1, the first module of our course. So, like I said, my name is Kyle. I'm a PhD candidate at Ohio State University in the anthropology department. I've been trained in archaeological methods, and most of my research has been in archaeological methods, but currently for my dissertation project, I'm transitioning to ethnographic research, so I'm looking at cultural circumstances currently in contemporary times. But archaeology is not completely disconnected, as I'm doing an ethnographic analysis of the preservation industry, the historic preservation industry, which archaeology as a practice is often utilized in. So I'm kind of looking at specifically the discourse and practice of the preservation industry. I'm looking at its political economy, and I'm looking at its ideology, its kind of governmentality. So if anyone is interested in those topics, I'm also willing to talk to you about them as well, specifically ethnography or post-structuralism theory, postmodernism, and how archaeology is practiced in general. These are things that fascinate me currently. So I was trained in archaeological methods at Cleveland State University as an undergraduate. I attended 3 consecutive field schools there and was trained under Professor Phil Winiarka. I was fortunate enough to experience the field in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park for the first few of my experiences. It was something that hooked me right away. Upon getting my bachelor's degree at Cleveland State, I ended up coming to Ohio State and working under Dr. Julie Field, who is one of the co-authors of the textbooks that we will be using in this course. And with her help, I was able to go to the Pacific island of Fiji, which is an independent nation out in the Pacific, comprising a little over 300 islands. And here I did an excavation of a cave, and that subsequently became my master's thesis, which I got my master's degree, my master's of arts degree in anthropology here at OSU. Since then, I've also had experience in Oman, which is a country in the Near East bordering Saudi Arabia and Yemen. This is a place where our other co-author, Dr. Joy McCorriston, has worked. So I worked on a project of hers that looks at early settlements, early sedentary life, people settling down for the first time in Oman, specifically the Dhofar province in the south of Oman. And I've also had field work in Guam, which is another West Pacific island, currently an unincorporated territory of the United States, has been for over 100 years. And when I was there, I came upon my dissertation project's subject, which is what I previously just explained a couple of minutes ago. And that is what I'm in preparation for right now, getting that proposal underway and defended before I head out to the field this year. Okay, so enough about me. Let's get to the course. I'll get to probably the most important thing, grades. All of the grades here in this course come from your own work at home on your own time. This is an asynchronous course, which means you don't have to meet up with me at a specific time or day to see a lecture. In fact, these videos that you'll see of me aren't really about lecturing anything. It's more so surmising and giving synopsis, giving review of what's going on in the course, what you'll be reading. So, continuing on to on grades, everything that you need to accomplish is going to be found on Carmen and submitted through Carmen, not through email to me or any of that. You can view all of the assignments on page 6 and 7 of the syllabus, and this will also show you the assignment weights, which tell you how each assignment contributes to your final grade in the course. And I have a rubric for all of those assignments on page 17 and 18 of the syllabus. So each week, we're going to have a combination of discussion posts and workbook questionnaires. You might have a multiple choice quiz. You might have a longer essay post as well. We also have a final poster project on an archaeological site of your choosing. And we also have a final exam. But that's all of the graded material for this course. Keep in mind that the inquisitive quizzes that are offered through your Norton ebook, where your textbook is, it's complimentary for the course. If you have any issues with the ebook, please tell me. The inquisitive quizzes are not for a grade. They do not accumulate for your final grade. They are graded when you take them to tell you how you did, but again, they don't factor into your last grade or your final grade. This is purely an exercise, the inquisitive quizzes. Okay, so let's see, moving forward, beyond the immediate feedback that you get on the quizzes, I will provide my own feedback on other assignments like your workbooks and discussions, and I will address some of the more pertinent issues and thoughts every week in my videos. If you have any troubles navigating Carmen, just let me know. You'll see a couple links, though, that you want to look into, the syllabus and the modules link. Really, these are the places that you'll find everything. The modules has all of the course resources and your assignments. So it's the go-to for most things. If you need help accessing the book, please reach out to me if that's not working for you right now. And make sure that you do all of the prerequisite assessments that are required before you can actually even open up Module 1's material, before that's even unlocked for you. Please feel free to email me at any time. You can message me on Carmen as well. We can set up a Zoom meeting if you would like to, if that's necessary. But also, just a reminder, I have office hours. This is every Tuesday from 12 noon till 2 p.m. And I will be available on Carmen to Zoom then, if you would like. But in general, reach out to me with anything. It helps me making sure that everything is on track with the course, making sure that there's not confusion about for any of you. I don't want anyone to feel like they're straggling and can't express what's going on for them. I will try to respond as quickly as I can with all of those. I'm pretty good at responding quickly. Okay, so now we will get into the first week's material. Week 1, it's on chapter 1 and 2. So you're going to be reading in your ebook, the textbook for the course, World Prehistory and the Anthropocene, chapters 1 and 2. Chapter 1 will introduce you to the Anthropocene concept, which this book and much of archaeological research in general is oriented to. Archaeology today, as you'll see in these first couple of pages, is an analysis of change over time. And archaeologists do that in terms of how humans have interacted with their environment, including the things that they have left behind and the things that have changed about their societies over time, not just the environment. We're also going to see that there are some very specific time frames that archaeologists think within. So you'll be presented with that, along with the concept of niche construction, which is in many ways an obvious indicator of how important evolutionary biology is as a reference for measurement in anthropological and archaeological studies. This is a precursor to some of the topics that the scientific explanations in this course will surround. This book also uses some island examples in this chapter to describe to you all what an archaeological perspective looks like and includes, what sorts of statements are said, what methods of analysis are used, what data is collected and used, material, what aspects have been studied about the human past. In fact, this is a great section of the book for you to model some of your final poster off of. Your final project, especially in terms of how it should be broken down, should look a lot like what some of these understandings that are written down in the first few pages. Specifically, we're going to start off with Moana as a reference, if anybody's familiar with the Disney flick. And we're going to talk about how this movie actually builds out of an archaeological concept, a concept of islands as laboratories, which is a process. And this process is something that archaeologists are interested in explaining. Archaeologists analyze the changing of our own societies and lifeways in the inherent connections they have to our environment, and island environments offer a more localized perspective on this process. Again, the key here being change, transformation, and evolution. Over time, humans have left quite a mark on the environment. Archaeologists study how this interplay impacts the environment and transforms human society. It's a relationship with varied approaches, challenges, and results. Ultimately, we see that each approach has its own strengths and its own weaknesses, and humans have had to cooperate their way through life no matter what. We then will apply all of this perspective to a quick review of Rapa Nui and Greenland, each island with their own accomplishments and lessons, some lessons more difficult to accept than others. But we will see how the interplay between environment and human society exists in a feedback. It's in flux always changing, whether it be prior to new arrivals, during a survival phase upon arrival, and the always looming trials of sustainability. Even Greenland, for instance, there were humans here on Greenland prior to the arrival of the Norse, which are the people that we will be talking about. But originally, the indigenous Inuit, they were there, and they still remained after the Nordic settlements were abandoned. But the way these two groups of people interact with and relate to their environment is very different. The way they organize and make choices about their societies are different. The relations that these groups have with themselves and their environment are very likely holding the most significant perspectives on why one group resorted to abandonment of Greenland and while the other persisted on and still sustains themselves in Greenland today. This would be the indigenous Inuit. Lastly, this chapter will introduce you to some of the most basic and fundamental methods of archaeological investigation, that being survey and excavation. This will start a theme for the book, where each chapter will bring up another type of archaeological method, whether it be for data collection or analysis. Archaeology pulls from nearly every scientific field to grasp various perspectives on the many moving parts that comprise the life of any society or group of people in the past. But these two basic methods help archaeologists gather what the various material contexts that any investigation will consider their analysis in. Analytically speaking, survey and excavation defines the limits of any particular archaeological perspective. We will also consider for a moment how humans have made their world, the key word suggesting creation. But anthropologically speaking, we call this practice, or praxis, which is the blending of theory, beliefs, and actions. All this to say that humans have been involved from an archaeological perspective in practicing niche construction to allow for survival. Some might actually say to allow for dominance and subjugation. But in a world that constantly changes, we aspire to change with it as well. Okay, so Chapter 2, I will start now. In Chapter 2, we're going to take a look back at some of the perhaps more genuinely original ideas that humans had. I don't want to be held to that claim, but they're old. This will include not just our life ways for survivability, but also our expression of that reality. So we will be looking at how people were able to make it through something so demanding as an ice age. And we will look at images that come from some of the earliest records of that very human idea of symbolizing such a life. All in all, it's really quite astonishing to think about society in terms of 200,000 years or beyond. The length of time that humans have been practicing life and has allowed for so much to occur. And here we are, looking back, right? Well, we'll look at some of the rigid details of what it means to be human right now from an archaeological perspective of structuralism, which has since been done away with by post-structuralist thinking in archaeology. And I will encourage you all to apply this to your thinking of our own culture today, our politics, our institutions, even some of the ways in which we think to come up with knowledge and produce science itself. Some foundational thinkers of this topic are Michel Foucault, Guyot Deleuze, Marjorie Wolf, and anthropologist's own Clifford Geertz, which has brought us around to the commonly used notion of standpoint theory. With that, I'm going to pause this because I can only give you 15 minutes at a time.